Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome back into another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Kernick with you here for another week. Sorry for the bit of a delayed start. We're just going to add it on to the week of weirdness that's been going on in Chicago sports. A downer of a week. We've got, and it's not even just sports stuff. It's real life stuff. We've got the White Sox continuing to just have the worst offseason ever. They're one of their biggest offseason acquisitions. Yeah, he's in all kinds of hot water for some terrible, nasty stuff. We got to get into that. A legend on the ice passed away today. And normally when that happens, you want to have a celebration a little bit, a celebration of life, a remembrance. But in the case of Bobby Hull, the guy off the ice isn't necessarily somebody worth celebrating. We'll discuss that. Then in less bad stuff, the Bulls are just losing games they have no business losing. And the Sky just lost a huge piece of their team from the last two seasons. But hey, the Bears still have the number one pick for now. We will discuss all this and more coming up right now on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckling on up, everybody. Let's go. And hello and good evening again, and welcome in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Kernick. Glad to be with you here tonight. Sorry for the little bit of the delay in getting started if you're listening live here on Monday night. Some technical difficulties in getting the show started. A little behind the scenes stuff. We had our entire Spreaker account get totally blown away last week. It all got set up and reorganized and fixed. I forgot that there was a new password, and so when I went to log in there, the old password that is now the wrong password just wasn't working. How dare the wrong password not work, right? Come on. It should just know. It should just know that I'm me and I'm here and I'm supposed to be here, right? Well, so I was fighting technology. I was fighting a losing battle against technology a little bit. So sorry for the little bit of a delay in getting the show started. But Lots to go through tonight, lots to be discussing tonight. It's going to be a bit of a heavy show tonight. It was a bit of a rough week in Chicago sports. Some stuff are, like the Bulls in the Sky. Okay, yeah, it's tough in the sports world, but at least it's just in the sports world. But then we had the stuff with the White Sox and today with the Blackhawks again. That's a little bit more real life. And so we've got lots of kind of heavy stuff to get into tonight on the show. So we're gonna start there. We're gonna hit you over the head with an anvil to start the show, and then we'll back it off and make it a little bit lighter and a little more fun as we go along tonight. So As we get started here, of course, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors. We do, of course, want to acknowledge our regular reads and our supporters here on the week. Of course, IE Sports Radio has been around now for just about 9 years, and we continue to bring you the best stuff from around from all around the internet, all around the podcasting world. Legendary content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. And with your help, we're ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starts at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every one of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And I do want to thank our Patreon supporters at this point: Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. And of course, ways to follow along with the show. Of course, you can follow along with the network on all the major social media platforms. We're available: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just search IE Sports Radio. You'll get there on all the major social platforms. This show is available for you on Twitter at IESRC. We're available for you there. Or also, you can follow along with me personally on Twitter. I am at Adam_Karnick. And if you are listening live here tonight on Monday night in the Spreaker.com app, hop on into the chat room. Taryn Rodriguez is already there. We can have some fun back and forth a little bit. We say hello there. If you're listening later on in the week, either on Spreaker or any of the other platforms, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any of the other ways to get our content, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to start things off tonight with the Blackhawks. We have not talked a lot about Blackhawks on the ice, frankly, because they've just been terrible. They are very much, they're trying to make like the Bears. They are trying to get the number 1 overall pick. There is an absolute stud waiting for whoever is lucky enough to get the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft this upcoming summer. It is a lottery style draft, so just finishing last in the league, unfortunately, isn't good enough to guarantee you the number 1 overall pick. You've got to win the lottery. But there is an absolute stud of a winger waiting for whoever winds up with that number 1 overall pick. So the Blackhawks are currently doing everything in their power to try to get that. So not a ton to talk about there. On the ice, off the ice tonight, this morning, there was big news. Bobby Hull, who is one of the, if not the greatest player in Chicago Blackhawks history, passed away. He was 84 years old. But like everything with the Blackhawks, it's not cut and dried and easy to just celebrate his career. Because unfortunately, the man is also attached to the career. So I was thinking about how did I want to tackle this? And I guess I want to start with the man, with Bobby Hull, the man, first. Definitely not someone that you necessarily want to be celebrating. He had 3 wives, 2 of whom accused him of physically and mentally abusing them, to the point of one wife he held over the edge of a balcony and was beating with a shoe to the point where she thought she was going to die. The other, later on, he threatened with a loaded shotgun during a confrontation. He also at one point in the 80s, was arrested for attempting to assault an officer, a police officer, during arrest. Was fined and placed in court supervision. There's even at one point, even at one point in the late 90s, apparently he had a very less than flattering interview with the Moscow Times where he had some very interesting opinions about African Americans and Adolf Hitler. He vehemently denied that. He vehemently denied that whole interview with the Moscow Times. He was an ambassador with the Blackhawks until just recently, just last year. That was probably a move as a result of the whole Brad Aldrich situation, where they realized, having a guy that's, assaulted a police officer and has had 2 of his 3 wives accuse him of domestic abuse. This probably isn't somebody we want as a team ambassador anymore. So the man himself certainly is not someone to be celebrated. The player, on the other hand, the Golden Jet, is one of the great legends of the game of hockey. I mean, he was Patrick Kane before Patrick Kane. Before Kane, before Ovechkin, before even Gretzky, there was Bobby Hull. He was the first player in NHL history to get 50 goals in a season. At one point, he had 5 of the 11 50-goal seasons in NHL history at one point. He was a trendsetter. He and teammate Stan Mikita, for modern Blackhawks fans, basically Mikita and Hull would have been the Taves and Kane of their day. We're talking late 50s to very early 70s. They were trailblazers. They curved the blades of their sticks to get better action, better control on them. And that's something that hockey players today still do. They will curve their sticks. He had a slap shot that was so hard that in practice, goalies would just get out of the way when he was going that hard. They would just, yep, okay, we're getting out of the way. Played in an era where it was uncommon for skaters did not wear helmets at all. They just didn't. It was even not uncommon for goalies to wear helmets or face masks. His slap shot was so hard that goalies would put on face masks just because they were playing the Blackhawks, just because they were playing Bobby Hull. At one point, his slap shot was registered at 118 miles an hour. He's the franchise's all-time leader in goals, 604. He is third all-time in points, 1,153 points in just over 1,000 NHL games. 15 seasons in Chicago. He then became the first professional hockey player to sign a $1 million contract. It was actually to leave the NHL and go into the WHA. He scored a couple hundred more goals there, before coming back to the NHL and finishing up there. A Hall of Famer, one of the 100 greatest players in NHL history. The man certainly is not worth remembering. Certainly not without qualifiers by it. But the player is definitely one that was a good one. There's a reason that nobody wears number 9 anymore in 3 separate organizations in the NHL. The Blackhawks, the Arizona Coyotes, and then the Winnipeg Jets. So, rest in peace to the Golden Jet. Zach Populus and I will probably be discussing more about him tomorrow on the Neutral Zone. You can catch us right here on IE Sports Radio tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock Central, where we'll be discussing all things NHL. We will definitely be discussing some more of the Golden Jet tomorrow. We're going to take a quick break. Then when we come back, I wish I could say I'd be lightening the mood, but the White Sox just continue to keep having a terrible offseason. We've got to dive into it a little bit next. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before. You got to check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Motorsports takes many form, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you. So, Karen Rodriguez during the break put into the chat room, unfortunately, you will not be lightening the mood, but instead you'll be whitening the mood with the White Sox. I appreciate the effort, Taryn. Yes, I wish I could be lightening the mood. I after talking about Bobby Hull and his passing in the first segment, I wish I could be saying, now we're going to get into some more fun. Now we're going to get into the fun of the show. Unfortunately, not yet, because the White Sox are just continuing to have one of the worst off seasons ever. And this has been the biggest shoe dropped last week. And it wasn't just that it took them forever to get a deal with Jason Benetti and Steve Stone to get them back as their television broadcasters, a move that seemed to be predicated by the fact that they didn't like that Jason Benetti does too many nationally televised games. It's because Jason Benetti's damn good at his job. But unfortunately, one of the big offseason acquisitions for the White Sox was starting pitcher Mike Clevinger from the San Diego Padres. Clevinger, at the time, I said I liked the signing. I felt like he fit into the back, mid to back of the rotation. If you're trying to have him be, one of your top two starters, then I wasn't as big of a fan of the move. Well, then a week ago, a bombshell dropped involving Clevinger. There's a woman who has a relationship with Clevinger. The two of them have a child together. Has accused Clevinger of being physically abusive not only to her, but to their daughter. She's accused him of strangling her, physically abusing her, and throwing, quote, chew spit on their infant daughter. Clevinger's lawyers have, of course, denied the allegation. And the White Sox, I want to read the White Sox statement verbatim. Major League Baseball and the Chicago White Sox take any and all allegations very seriously, and the White Sox are completely supportive of the joint domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse policy shared by the MLB and the MLBPA. MLB opened an investigation after learning of these allegations. The White Sox were not aware of the allegations or the investigation at the time of his signing. The White Sox will refrain from comment until MLB's investigative process has reached its conclusion. So MLB knew of these allegations and was looking into him before the White Sox signed him. And I understand why Major League Baseball can't tell the White Sox that, hey, this free agent that you're interested in signing, you might want to have second thoughts about it because we're currently investigating him for domestic abuse. I realize why they can't do that, because then, if it turns out that it's baseless, you just prevented this man from being able to get a job for no reason. So I understand that. It's a murky, weird area there. At the same time, I don't understand why he's currently employed by the White Sox now that this investigation is in the open and it's out there. The reason it seems like he's still employed is because the only way the White Sox are trying to recoup their money. Clevinger signed a 1-year, $12 million deal, and the White Sox would like to recoup that $12 million. And on the one hand, I can appreciate that, hey, this isn't somebody that you'd necessarily want to pay $12 million to. It feels like the White Sox are trying to be cheap. It also, because if they were to cut him right now, he'd be owed the $12 million, and they'd pay it out, and that'd be the end of it. Clevinger would be untouchable until this investigation is done, and then you'd figure out where to go from there. Instead, it feels like the Sox are trying to get their money back, and the only way they have to do that is they have to let the process then play out, and they have to just act like it's business as usual, which then makes for a really icky and weird situation, where you have this guy that has been accused of doing these things to his girlfriend and their child. The allegations that have been raised, too, are that this is not the only woman or child that he's done this to. He's got a couple more kids with a different woman, and the allegations are that he did things against them also. Those have not quite yet come to public light, at least not as much as the first ones have. And it's just icky. It's one more thing with this terrible, terrible offseason. I mean, the White Sox, they've been having all kinds of problems as a baseball team. Now you're adding real life problems to it, and it's frustrating, and it's depressing, and it's upsetting with the organization. And now we're adding to it just the cynicism of Jerry's just trying to be cheap. Why is this guy still an employee of your organization? Get rid of him. It's going to cost you $12 million. Fine, it's going to cost you $12 million. Get rid of this guy. You shouldn't have signed him in the first place. You should have been able to do enough homework to go, hey, there might be something here that we might not want to touch this guy. All right, the league office can't tell us anything, but, if family and friends are making complaints about him, where there's, there might be some fire here. It might be worth your due diligence if you're going to make a $12 million investment into the man to maybe investigate some of that smoke and determine, is it a fire or is it something else, before signing him. Instead, they didn't do that, and now they're trying to recoup their investment, which means that they have to keep him employed and have to keep him around and have to trot him out there for spring training here in a couple of weeks. And it's just, it's just icky. It's just icky all around. Just not fun. Not fun. Like I said at the top, I was going to, unfortunately, when I was thinking about how to do the show, unfortunately, the only way I figured out how to do it was to kind of just start. I felt like it was, let's start off by just clubbing everybody over the head with the anvil, and then we'll back it off from there. We're going to start to back it off a little bit now by staying with Jerry's other team, the one that his son Michael now runs, the Bulls. Because while they're having problems, fortunately, their problems are just because the team is bad. It's not because they're bad humans that are doing things off of the basketball court that are reprehensible. They just are bad at playing basketball. We can deal with that. That's a little more lighthearted, I think. And we can have a little bit more fun with that. We talked last week with the Bulls about how, you come back from Paris, you beat the Pistons, you beat the Hawks. Hey, they can go on a little bit of a streak here. These next few games are all against bad teams. We can handle beating some bad teams, right? Yeah, we can handle beating some bad teams. Well, apparently not. They went into they beat the Hawks last Monday night. Then last Tuesday night, they went into Indy to take on the Pacers. The Pacers had lost 7 straight games. What happens? Well, the Bulls, they got off to a great start. It was a fantastic start. They're up 62-46 at the half. I have to do math, and I stink at doing math. They were still up at the end of the third quarter. Not by as much. Not by as much. It was 87-80. They're at 87-82 right there. 87-80 at the end of the quarter, as I stink at doing math, but still up. And the Pacers were down some of their biggest stars. Some of their best players did not play in the game. Didn't matter. Bulls lose 116-110. All right. Well, then we turn around. Now let's go to Charlotte. Well, Charlotte's terrible. Charlotte's won 13 games all season. The Bulls can beat these guys, right? LaMelo Ball had a horrible night. The one star that the Hornets had, he had a horrible night. He just kept chucking up threes, and they just kept missing. 2 of 15 from 2 of 11 from 3, 2 of 15 from the field. Finished with 15 points and 11 rebounds because he kept getting to the free throw line. 9 free throws in the game for LaMelo Ball. Hornets win 111-96. They lost by 15 to the Hornets. This thing it's beyond done. Yeah, they held another team meeting after that. Oh boy. You held another team meeting, huh? Hey, DeMar, stop shooting contested twos. Hey, Zach, How about you make some threes? Hey, guys, remember Vooch? He's really good. Use him. Hey, Patrick Williams, start stepping up, man. Let's get this thing going. Hey, Billy Donovan, you're recognizing problems. You're great at breaking down the problems in the postgame presser. Can you make the adjustments in the game? Can you get the guys to, can you get them to change what they're doing so that you're not going to lose to these horrible teams? They did beat the Magic, thank God. Orlando's not a good team. So they at least did that. But at this point, Larry's joining the chat room. I am live via my widget. All right. At least somebody can hear me. I'm glad for that. At least somebody's hearing me. The trade deadline's coming up soon. Coming up very, 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 very soon in the NBA. I think they're at the point they're just going to tear it down. Burn it down and start over. Burn it down, tear it down, start over. Figure out something for where to go from here. Because this thing just isn't working. It's not working anymore. It's done. It's over. We gotta fix this thing. We gotta fix this thing for sure. With the Bulls. And I'm not sure. Vooch, it feels like you got to trade because he's on an expiring deal. And unless you're deciding that you're going to keep him, there's just, you got to move him so you can get something. DeMar, I know there's people interested in him. Alex Caruso, there's the high energy defensive guy. There's a guy that every competing team would want to have. Zach, I have no idea if you could trade Zach now. He just signed that max deal. I have no idea how easy it is to trade a guy with a deal like that. But it's, yeah. The Bulls are a mess. The Bulls are a mess. All right. We're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, we are going to lighten the mood. We're not going to be quite so heavy for the rest. We're not going to be done. We're not going to be done being a little sad, but it's going to be for better reasons. And then we'll have a little bit of fun talking some Bears before we get out of here. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Rose Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we dive into our last segment here, I do want to once again thank our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, MLO's Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Again, go to our website, iesportsradio.com, where you'll find our Patreon link. Starts at just $5 a month. Hop on in. You too can get shouted out on all of our shows. We've also got access to our podcasting university and merchandise, and even you could get featured in your own segment of a show with Larry B on the Defining Moment. So be sure to check that out over at iesportsradio.com. It's been an incredibly heavy show. I apologize for that. There's been a ton of news. Very, very, very news heavy this week. A little bit more, and then I promise we'll have a little bit of fun before we get out of here and we turn things over to Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point. I mentioned last week that the WNBA's free agency period doesn't officially open until later this week. This coming Wednesday is when free agency will officially start. But right now the league is in, for all intents and purposes, it's legal tampering period, where teams and players are allowed to communicate back and forth and negotiate deals. Nothing can become formalized and final until Wednesday, but they can announce to the world, hey, these are my intentions. In the case of Candace Parker, she had said last week that she felt like she either wanted to stay with Chicago or go back to Los Angeles to play for the Sparks. And then out of nowhere, over the weekend, she announced that she's going to go play for Las Vegas. The defending champion Aces just got Candace Parker. Cale Henderson, our host of Sin City Sports, you just may have heard the drop for him. That team out in Vegas, my gosh, I mean, they were already the defending champs. They're going to be averaging over 100 points a night with some of the players they have now. They add Candace to that group, and it felt like, wait a minute, where did Vegas come from? Well, then she talked about it, and it actually does make sense. Most of her family is in that area out west, and it makes for an easier time to get to be with her wife and daughter during the season. She mentioned how her daughter's in high school now, playing for Vegas. It'll be easier for her to get to go to some of her daughter's events. You know, some of her things like concerts or games or other events and activities that she's part of, being able to play in Vegas. And so, all right, that makes sense. She said, you know, my family allowed me to come home to play for Chicago these last couple years. Now it's my turn to make it easy on them, make it easier on them. So, all right, Candace, that's a good point. You win. Have fun out there. Have fun out there in Vegas. Do well, except for when you play against Chicago. And not because we wish ill against you, just simply because, you know, we want the Sky to win. The Sky could be in a lot of trouble, though. Azura Stevens and Courtney Vandersloot are still there to be re-signed, but they could also be lost. We'll be breaking down what happens on this coming Wednesday and in WNBA free agency. We'll break down a little bit of it more on next week's show, but that was a big shoe that dropped over the weekend, was that Candace Parker was going to be leaving and going to play for Las Vegas. So the defending champs just got even stronger. All right, finally, before we get out of here, as we've got about 10-ish minutes left until we turn things over to Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point, and he gets us caught up on everything happening in the world of volleyball. We've got to talk Bears, right? We had the conference championships over the weekend. We had the NFC where, oh boy, that was a blow. That ended quickly. That ended very quickly. Brock Purdy tearing his UCL. He might need Tommy John surgery. I saw today. Oh my goodness! I mean, that's a pitcher's injury there. I wondered at the time if any quarterback has had that particular surgery before, and then some friends of mine texted some names to me. Jake Delhomme apparently is one that had it. Rob Johnson of the Buffalo Bills, he's had Tommy John. But still surprising there. So we've got Philly in on the NFC, and then on the AFC side, we've got the Chiefs again. Matt Nagy is in the Super Bowl. I'm not happy about that. I don't mind that Mahomes and company made the Super Bowl. And we do now have shows for both cities. Of course, we've got Cash and Chris for Philly, covering all things Philly sports. Philly Sports Talk tomorrow evening. You can catch them here on IE Sports Radio. But we also now have Kansas City as well. We've got Kansas City on Sunday afternoons. Outstandingly enough, 2:00 Sunday afternoons. This is KC Sports. Bishop just started. He's done his first couple of episodes. What a lead-in we're going to have with him for the next 2 weeks. Obviously, this coming Sunday is going to be fun, as I bet he's still going to be just celebrating and partying and whooping it up. And then the following Sunday, oh man, that's going to be, I'm sure, hot and heavy preview and analysis as we get into that. But what do we take away from the Bears about all this? Well, my biggest takeaway, again, is still they need to improve their lines. Before anything else, improve the offensive and defensive lines. As much as we talk about needing weapons, and I want some more weapons for Justin Fields, the line play on both sides, you got to just improve those significantly. Which leads me to a weird... I know we're in lying season. I know that from the moment that Houston game ended and the Bears officially collected the number 1 overall pick, that it officially became lying season overall for the Bears. But Warren Sapp, my gosh, where the heck? I get that there are some people that believe that Justin Fields, for some reason, is a running back, not a quarterback. I've gone into that enough. With only a few minutes left, I don't want to get into the weeds on that again. So I get that there are some people that want to trade him. And I also understand that the Bears have a lot of holes on the roster. And trading out of number 1 is a great way to be able to use that asset to fill multiple holes. So I get wanting to trade that. But trading them both to the same team? That makes no... Larry, I'm going to borrow your phrase. That makes no gosh damn sense. If you're acquiring Justin Fields, it's to be a quarterback. If you're acquiring the number 1 overall pick, ostensibly it's to get a quarterback. There are 3 quarterbacks that are going to be debated about of who should go number 1 over here in the next couple of months. It's ridiculous and redundant to have both of those things, Justin Fields and the number 1 overall pick. That's part of why the Bears are looking to trade the number 1 pick. So why would someone trade for both? That makes no sense. I realize Warren Sapp has his sources and has his things. I think we all need to remember that even though the NFL playoffs are still going on and the Super Bowl is now officially less than 2 weeks away, for the other 30 teams, we're into lying season. And you need to vet your sources. Just because a guy told it to you doesn't automatically make it true. I think we all need to keep that in mind before we just blurt out whatever thought it is that comes into our head. Because if you take 2 seconds and think about it, it makes no sense to trade both Justin Fields and the number 1 overall pick to the same team. If you're trading Fields, that's because you think that one of the 3 quarterbacks that everybody's going to be debating is going to be a better option than Fields. And oh yeah, you have the number 1 overall pick. You can get the guy you want. You don't have to share him or risk losing him to anybody. But if you think that Justin Fields is the guy, I hope at this point you know that I fall into that category, then flip that number 1 pick, turn it into multiple picks, let somebody else come up and take one of those quarterbacks, who, by the way, there are a lot of draft people that are saying that Fields now is better than any of those guys now. If Fields were in this draft class, he would hands down be the number 1 overall pick. He'd be the best quarterback prospect of this bunch. So if you feel you've already got your quarterback, trade that number 1 pick and turn it into multiple assets. But don't do both things. That's just stupid, idiotic, and redundant. I realize that prior Bears administrations, Ryan Pace, might do that. This one wouldn't. At least we hope not. One last Bears thought here, and then we're going to close the book on tonight's show. Patrick Mahomes' father went on Chicago Sports Talk Radio, 670 The Score, earlier today, and said that Ryan Pace had flat out told Mahomes that the Bears were going to draft him at 3. And that Mahomes was very personally wounded when the Bears traded up to number 2 and took Mitch Trubisky ahead of him. Darn it, Ryan Pace. Why did you go? That's just one we're going to have to figure out how to live with as Bears fans. That's just the long and the short of it, unfortunately. All right, that does it for our show here tonight. Once again, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, Bay Area Raised, and Anonymous. Thank you to Larry B. All the hard work you've been doing. The website has gotten a facelift, an upgrade. It looks fantastic, sir. I know you basically spent all last week hiding in your cave working on the website. It looks fantastic. Looks really good. Job well done, sir. Thank you for all the other work that you are doing. Thank you to Taryn for hanging out with us in the chat room as well tonight. He is going to be on right after us talking all things volleyball. Going to be talking a lot of Loyola men's volleyball as well in the show. So going to stay right in the city of Chicago there with that. Thank you to you, the listener, for continuing to come back every week. I know this episode, some technical difficulties made it a little trickier than normal, but thank you for coming and listening every week, whether it's live on Monday night or later on in the week. I really do appreciate it. Next week, we'll have some fallout from WNBA free agency opening, so we'll see what moves the Sky have or have not made. The Bulls are insisting on still playing basketball games. We'll see if they've sold the farm yet. We'll talk about that. And it's Super Bowl preview week. Of course, we're going to be diving into the game. For me, it's a toss-up. I could go either way right now. I am going to have to do some digging, do some diving, look at the matchup, and listen to both of our shows, both on Tuesday night and on Sunday afternoon, to help figure out who I think is going to win this thing. We will discuss all that and more next week. We'll see you then.